Mr. Suresh Mathur, Dr. Balyan, Dr. Razdan, Dr. Avinash Chandra, all the other distinguished guests here, ladies and gentlemen. After so many eminent speakers have spoken on gas and what it takes to bring a 15% share for gas, I think I have very little to say, but and also at the fag end of the day, it becomes more challenging, to make it more interesting, but I'll try my bit. Bear with me for some time, and I'll take you through what else is there, because you've already had a master class on what LNG is and how, what we are doing to import LNG and how it's better than the other fuels. So I will skip through some of the things which have already been talked about, and I will focus more on city gas and what the country is doing on that, and what are the challenges before the gas industry in India. We all know that, these are all statistics, and the previous speakers have talked about how gas has got a good quantum of share, about 24%. The world energy is growing at 1.5% annual basis, but the gas is growing at about 2.3%. This is the world average growth. So gas offtake is growing at a much faster pace than other forms of energy across the world. And the production is given, numbers are given here. 3,700 billion cubic meters was produced in 2017. And a couple of major transformations which happened in the gas business is that China became the largest gas importing country in the world in the year 2019. In fact, it just started a couple of years ago, and in a couple of years it's become the leading gas importing as well as using nation in the Asian market. Also, another factor which has impacted the world demand of gas is that the industrial sector and usage in industries has overtaken the demand for power as the main driver across the world for use of gas. The third thing which has happened recently is that US, from being an importer of both oil and gas, has actually become one of the major sources of gas exports. And therefore, you have seen a lot of LNG terminals coming up, liquefaction facilities being set up in US, and we are importing a lot of gas across the world now. US is the third, fourth largest exporter, and sooner than later it will become one of the top two exporters, probably overtaking Australia and even Qatar at some stage. Now these numbers already have been shown earlier. The short point is that, from a country which was dependent entirely on domestic gas till the year 2003-04, today we are importing more than 50% of our domestic requirements. So therefore, as the demand grows, there is need to focus more on domestic availability, while imports will be there to supplement the domestic requirements. But if the Indian market has to grow and thrive, then domestic availability also has to keep pace with that. Also, what is happening is that the trends are changing from power and fertilizer, which started as the anchor load business for this industry and were constituting about 80% of the total demand. Their share is constantly going down year after year. And newer applications are taking over. The CGD is coming up in a big way, and the share of CGD is growing. Similarly, the use of gas in refineries is growing. The application in small and medium industries is growing. And there are several other applications which are talked about, use in marine, as a marine fuel on the long-haul trucks, buses, etc. All that will gradually overtake the demand of fertilizer and power that was the anchor load in the past. Also, these are some projections people have made. Till 17-18, the CAGR for demand was about 5%. It is expected that it will actually increase to 8% going forward, because the focus now, as I said, is shifting to use of gas in newer applications. And newer CGD rollouts are happening, and new refineries are coming up. There are several other, industrial applications where gas would find a place. And therefore, the need is to create the infrastructure across India. Now, these are pipelines which are already existing. So you would notice they are mostly in western, southern, and northern parts of the country. The other parts have been devoid of the pipelines. The focus of the government now is to interconnect the rest of the country. So these green lines are the ones which are either under implementation today or will be taken up in the next couple of years. And once we have that 30,000-40,000 kilometer kind of a trunk network, then you will have access to all parts of the country in place. At the moment, the government is focused on connecting the eastern part of the country, and there is something called a Urja Ganga project which is on at the moment, and that project will allow access to eastern Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Jharkhand, then West Bengal, Orissa, and there is a new project called Indradhanush which is being inaugurated by the Prime Minister now, and which will connect 7 northeastern states also. So with that, the entire eastern part of the country will also get connected to the gas grid, and then gas can flow from any import facility or domestic source to these parts also. And as we go along, there is going to be an interconnection of all these trunk pipelines, which eventually will allow you access of any gas, whether domestic or imported, to any market anywhere in the country. So that is the ultimate objective, but it will take another maybe 5, 7 or 10 years before that actually happens. So these blue ones are the newer connections that are planned and in the offing in the next couple of years. Now, as already talked in the earlier presentation, there is capacity to import about 25-26 million tons of LNG today. We are, utilizing some terminals to the entire capacity, but others are not being utilized fully. Another 20-25 million tons is in construction phase at the moment. So eventually, in the next 3-4 years' time, we'll have about 50 million tons of import capability in our country, which is a very healthy number. Also, another 8-10 million is proposed. So about 60 million tons of import capacity is getting created, which will allow flexibility of, using any terminal to import gas. There were times in the past when terminals were running full, the shipments were coming in and there was no ullage available. At times we had to pay demurrage and all those kind of things. That will be a history, sooner than later. And with the interconnection of all these terminals, the flexibility of using any terminal to discharge gas coming in from outside and using it and transporting it anywhere would be possible. So this is a list of all the terminals which are in construction and the offing in the next 3-4 years' time. Now, if I come to CGD, which I would like to emphasize more on, there is a vision when PNGRB got created. The petroleum regulator is not here today, but the broad map that they created of, getting piped gas into houses was that about 300 cities, as eventually will get connected to piped gas networks set up there in each city. And this was in the year 2007. Since then, a lot of work has been done in this area, and from about 30 GAs, which were geographical areas where gas network was being created, today the canvas has increased to about 228. So that's the kind of effort the government and the regulator have made in trying to increase the footprint of gas across India. Once all these networks get created, it will eventually create a big market for gas. Now, whatever gets produced domestically will definitely get gobbled up, it will actually allow a lot of imported gas also to be fed into the system. Interestingly, some of the sectors which were price sensitive like power and to some extent fertilizer, because lots of subsidies are there, will not be able to bear a higher price. But the CGD industry or the industrial use of gas in different applications will actually allow a higher price also to be accepted by these sectors, because there is it's not only a better fuel as has been talked about in the past, it's more efficient and the environment is better, and there are so many other factors which allow gas as a preferred fuel to be used across the world. Now till September this year, about 96 cities and districts work was going on in creation of CGD networks, city gas networks across India. There are about 46 lakh houses which are connected as of now, and the aim of the government is to have 1 crore connections by 2020-21 and maybe 2 crores by 2024. So that's a very ambitious number, that the target that the government has set, and I'm sure with all these investments that are coming into this sector, it will allow access of gas to most households in any A, B or C class city. And the kind of investment that is expected is about 1.1 trillion rupees. That's the kind of magnitude of investment that is going to go on in this sector. Now these are the statistics I was talking about. PNG households currently 47 lakhs. Industrial customers about 36,000, and these will keep on multiplying as the network gets established in cities and different geographies. There are about 1,500 CNG stations today, and at least 5,000–6,000 more are planned. There are about 3.3 million vehicles running on gas today, and these are only expanding, Now, how the progress of PNG connections has happened over a couple of years. The average going rate was about 3 lakh connections every year from 2010-11 to about 15-16. Thereafter, it climbed to 4.4 lakh in a single year. And in between 16-17 and 17-18, it was 7 lakhs. This year, it is going to touch about 1 million. So that is the kind of numbers that are being achieved year after year, and next year onwards, it will be an exponential growth that is going to happen in piped gas connections into houses. And our own take is that, once a customer comes on board, he seldom goes out of the system. Only if somebody is migrating out of India or passes away, then the usage doesn't happen. Otherwise, every customer sticks with the piped gas connection that he gets. Now, if you look at these are the pipelines that are there as of now. If you look at what was there in terms of CNG market in India before the 9th round of bidding, which only recently concluded, it shows all the geographies and all the districts where piped gas connections were either being given or entities had been authorized to create a network. And there were about 91 areas there. 11% of India's geography was connected. And then there were 1,400 CNG stations were there. This is about the 9th round, before the 9th round, and 3 million vehicles. Once the 9th round bidding happened, some new geographies. These are the new geographies, the brown ones, where people have now been authorized to create a network. So once that happens, the 91 geographies will, go to 177. And these are districts, big districts across India. 35% of India's area will get covered, and about 6,000 CNG stations would be there. So not only in cities, you will see stations being set up on highways, creation of green corridors happening, and transport sector, we were talking of within the city, three-wheelers and taxis, etc., using gas. Tomorrow we'll talk about, haulage between one city and the other, long-distance transportation happening on either CNG or LNG, depending on how far the vehicle has to go. So all this augurs well for the gas industry going forward, and the estimation is this 3 million vehicles will actually reach a 14 million number. So these are some statistics worked out by analysts and others, and it gives a very, kind of a robust picture of the growing gas business in India. In the 10th round, which has just come in the last month, PNGRB has again offered another 50 geographies. So, and that covers about 124 districts. Although these are all dates for, by next month you will have another 50 geographies also, people getting an authorization to work on. So with all that, we would have covered a sizable part of the country. So the pink ones now I'm talking about are the geographies which will get connected in the 10th round of bidding. And the geographical areas will grow to 227. So we were talking about a number 300 number in 2007. We are close to 227 now. So the government and the regulator, they have done a reasonably good job in terms of, allowing people to work for creation of network, allowing access of gas to customers, etc. And then about 53% of the geographical area will get covered. And by the way, every entity who gets authorization has a time frame within which they have to connect. And therefore, it's all time bound with the penalties, etc. So eventually you will see all this happening sooner than later. Then it will allow 12,000 CNG stations to get created. So from 6,000 we'll go to 12,000. And these are all bid out numbers by people who have bid for these authorizations by 2030. So you'll have 24 million vehicles running on gas, whether CNG or LNG. That's the kind of opportunity that exists today, from 3 million to 24 million, 8x kind of a number. Do I have time? Sir, how long do I have? Okay. 5 minutes? 5 minutes. So then people talked about, if we want to reach 15% kind of a share in the energy basket, these are the statistics which people have churned out, BP, IEA, IESS, etc. Each one talks about a gas use of about 600 to 700 million cubic meters per day. That is a tall order, as has been talked about, because you don't have power sector using gas. Power sector is the biggest guzzler of gas across the world. Power sector and space heating. These are the two sectors which allows 24% gas usage in developed economies. We neither have the luxury of space heating because we are a warm country. Therefore, the usage of gas is just 0.4 cubic meters per day per household today in our country. And the CGD companies have to really struggle to make an investment to reach every household, because the payback is not so fast as has been thought about. So also power sector, because of the merit order, so-called merit order dispatch system in our country, where lowest cost power, whether polluting or not, finds the best place. So therefore gas has no chance whatsoever. What chance gas could have in future is distributed power, where localized, renewable energy systems could be in place, which could generate power during the day. And if you have to balance the localized requirements, you could use gas generators during night, something like that, or for balancing load or for peaking requirements. That is not going to be much. And therefore, the 697 or 610 numbers are, a bigger challenge than has been thought about in the past. But, all said and done, with the kind of numbers that we have talked about and the kind of expansion that is happening, we may reach a number of 350 or 400 million kind of a number. So that red one is kind of business as usual with no growth happening. 310, 350 is a kind of a number which will happen if these kind of investments come into the system and newer applications are there where you use gas. Fortunately, as people said, we have committed ourselves in the international fora to lot of things like reduction of emissions and, 40% electric vehicles from non-fossil fuels, etc., etc. So if all this is going to be there, gas would definitely find a larger place as we go along in the fuel mix of our country. But we will need a lot of R&D, we will need a lot of application, better technology, etc., for gas to be used in sectors where it is not finding a place today because the economics is not in favor of it. Now, as I said, lots of huge investments are required. Some of the investments that are required in the value chain it suggests about 200,000 crores of investment in the next couple of years for additional 12,000, 13,000 kilometers of pipeline. About 60,000 crores would be required. LNG terminals, another 23,000, 24,000 crores. Of all those terminals that I talked about are getting set up. Couple of fertilizer plants, fortunately, are getting revived in eastern India. One or two new plants are coming up, which is auguring well for the use of gas. So with this 6-7 plants, about 30,000-40,000 crores would also be required for revival and expansion of these plants. Then the 170 GAs I talked about till the 9th round will require another 70,000 crores worth of investment. So people will have to invest these kind of numbers to see that 340, 360 MMSCMD kind of a number as we go along. And I'm sure there will be lots of companies, public and private, investing. So the environment is challenging, but there are lots of opportunities. Lots of opportunities. As I said, baseload power is out of question as far as gas is concerned, but it could be used as a balancing fuel in the electricity grid. Now, how much place it finds, will depend on how efficient we are, whether we are able to generate power efficiently, and things like that. It could be a hybrid model, as I talked about, disintegrated power generation, localized, where renewable energy and gas could find a solution, till the batteries, etc., and storages take over, maybe in future. Today they are not there. Then LNG for transportation is going to have a big future, in terms of shipping, in terms of waterway requirement, in terms of, locomotives, in terms of long-haul trucking, busing, etc. All that, as we go along, once the ecosystem gets developed, a lot of all this will change. And the change will be sooner than what we are expecting. Similarly, industries. Today, we have all the beautiful laws in the world, but there's no enforcement. So today, even in spite of all what we see in the papers, industries continue using polluting fuels like PetroCoal, furnace oil, LSHS, etc., etc. Tomorrow, if there is some urge to actually have a cleaner environment and to enforce the laws, you will find a lot of industries using natural gas. And if that happens, usage of gas and the viability of these CGDs will grow exponentially. Also, I talked about shipping, trading, etc. All these are the opportunities that are there. There are lots of uncertainties. I talked about power generation, and so also, once you create a lot of infrastructure, today we have a scheme of add-on tariffs. One line gets created by somebody, it joins to another existing line. You have the tariff add-on, and the guy at the tail end will have to pay all the tariffs. Tomorrow we may have to think about a uniformity of tariffs, a level playing field for anybody wanting to use gas across India. Okay, sir. So all this, and there are lots of other challenges which are there, but as I say, gas has got a very bright future, and with the kind of investments happening, with the kind of policy, with the kind of priority that gas has been given by the government, especially for PNG, CNG, it shall find a much larger role to play going forward in the Indian market. Thank you so much.